let's roll. Happy Sunday, everybody. This is JoJo Bennington. Happy to welcome you here to learn about DNA repair and immunity and nutrients and things that are really hot topics right now, obviously, with everything that's going on and keeping our body at tip-top shape. And I have been honored to be able to work with this company and this product for over 14 years. And as a certified nutritional consultant, I am always proud to be aligned with this company and this product and be able to share this with people as we see it changes lives in such a dramatic fashion. And today we are honored to have Dr. Joshua Dunsky with us, who is from Boston, Massachusetts, actually lives just outside of Boston and has several thriving clinics there. He's a chiropractic physician who specializes in neuropathy and scoliosis and spinal deformities. And he also has a gut program in his clinic and works a lot with supplementation and understanding and teaching and educating why supplementation is so important. So he also travels around and teaches on the TDOS system, which he'll touch a little bit on today, and so you guys will be able to understand that. And has lectured all over the globe in front of anti-aging conferences and longevity conferences, and we are just honored to steal him away from his family of 5 kids and his lovely wife Lisa to join us today and have him drop some of his amazing knowledge on us. And so thank you, Dr. Dunsky, for being here to share with us. We always love to listen to you present, and let's roll.
Thank you, JoJo. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. So great to be here. I honestly love talking about this. It's a passion. It's something that's changed us, in every way since we've been introduced to this platform. So thank you again, everybody, and thank you, JoJo, so much. Tonight is really about the control that we have. We live in a world right now where a lot of moving parts with our healthcare. And there's some things that we can't control, but there's a lot that we can control. And that's really what this is about. It's about removing the ignorance so everybody can make their own decision. This isn't about convincing anybody or saying you have to do this or that. It's really about just bringing the knowledge to the table. It's a sifting process and sift it out. And if it makes sense, great. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. What I've found over the past, I've been practicing for almost 21 years now. And what I've found is that you can have state-of-the-art technology in your clinic, in your practice, in whatever realm that you're treating patients with. You can have the most advanced procedures, but it comes down to our cells' innate ability to heal. Your body can heal, right? But it can only heal when certain things are working. And those certain things that are working depend on the nutrition that we put in our body. It's that simple. Our body was meant to run on certain fuel. And unfortunately, the world doesn't give us that much anymore. And so this is really about the science and the supplementation with whatever platform you want to use. It's fine. You don't have to do what I do or what many of you do. You can choose your own platform, but make it make sense. So ask the questions and do the research. We're going to start off by talking about telomeres, because telomeres, share my screen here. Telomeres is the foundation of everything that we know with health. In other words, everything comes down to with our body's ability to heal comes down to a telomere. Many people still don't know what a telomere is. And for those of you that do on here, that's great. And for those of you that don't, it's the foundation of the protection mechanism that really buffers our DNA. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean. So in every cell in our body, we have these chromosomes, and DNA is within the chromosome itself. So you see this blue X up here. The DNA is your genetic blueprint. Just like you can't build a house without a blueprint, your body would never survive without genetic components that tell the inner workings of the body what to do. In other words, when the baby's born, how do certain eyeball cells go to the eyeball? How do certain kidney cells go to the kidney to grow the kidney? How do certain cells go to the liver? You get my point. There's this amazing intelligence inside the body because of the DNA. That's the genetic coding. And so seen here in yellow, the tips of our chromosomes, okay, are called telomeres. Those are the things that protect our DNA. And that's really what it comes down to. So if you look at this rope on this screen, that rope would identify the chromosome. Inside the chromosome is the double helix that you can see down here in the left-hand corner, the double helix of our DNA, genetic coding. So the red tape up here protects our DNA. And so what happens is when the baby's born, okay, our telomeres are measured in bases. They're 10,000 bases long. And every time our cells reproduce, because our cells all throughout our life are always working, they're dying off and new cells are forming, okay? And every time the cell reproduces itself, the telomere gets a little shorter, little shorter, little shorter. And so scientists identified this and said, oh my goodness, this is exactly what causes the aging process. This is exactly why a 40-year-old skin looks different than a 12-year-old skin. Why? Because of telomere shortening. So when we're born, our telomeres are 10,000 bases, and when we die, literally the end of our life, our telomeres have reduced down to 5,000 bases. The analogy would be a shoestring also, the plastic tip on the shoestring. You know, if it's intact and there's no wear and tear, the shoestring is great. But if that plastic strip, plastic protective mechanism has worn down, the shoestring starts to fray, just like you see here in the rope. And when that telomere gets to 5,000 bases, that cell dies. The DNA unravels, and literally, this is what's responsible for so many neoplasms and cancers and the death of the cell, called cell senescence. So if you think about it, our lifespan is that 5,000 bases. It's from 10,000 to 5,000. Now, everything I've showed you here, it's called basal cell shortening. It's the natural process of our cells reproducing and the telomere getting a little shorter, little shorter, little shorter. There's nothing we can do about that. So we know right now. Things may change down the road, but as of we know right now, there's nothing we can do about that. But there's a process called accelerated telomere shortening. And that's what everybody has control over. And that's one of the concepts I want people to take away with today. That accelerated shortening causes this to happen very quickly. And that's why you can find a 30-year-old that looks like they're 20, and you can find a 30-year-old that actually looks like they're 40 or 45. Why? Because their telomeres have reduced down quicker than their biological age, if that makes sense. And that's responsible for every age-related symptom that we can see. Gray hair, skin changes, weight gain, sarcopenia, which is muscle wasting. We'll talk about that in a little bit. It's because the telomeres are getting shorter and shorter at a rapid pace. This technology, by the way, won the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine back in 2009. And there's a gentleman on here I want to call your attention to, Dr. Bill Andrews. He was called by popular science the man that would stop time. Why? Because he identified something that is prevalent in every single one of us and has everything to do with aging and illness, believe it or not. Illness and health, I should say. So Dr. Bill Andrews discovered human telomerase. Human telomerase is why when a 30-year-old woman has a 30-year-old baby, right? We would expect it. So we know that the cells replicate identically. Okay, if you cut your hand on the skin on your hand, you're going to get cells that are supposed to be on your hand. If you cut, or damage tissue in another part, if you break a bone, you're going to have specific bone cells that grow there. The reason why when a 30-year-old woman has a 30-year-old baby with 30-year-old hair and 30-year-old eyes, the woman does, of course. The baby doesn't. The baby has newborn baby skin, newborn eye cells and liver cells and kidney cells, and the reason is human telomerase. So in utero, that telomerase prevents telomere shortening. So what am I telling you? It prevents the cells from aging in utero. There's no aging in utero. The aging starts when the baby's born. And there's a reason I'm telling you this. So that's the second concept I want everybody to take away. The baby expresses telomerase in utero. Okay, when the baby's born, there's a switch that's shut off. It's like a light switch. So all through life, you and I, have these genes that can produce telomerase. They're just shut off at birth. Okay, so keep that in your back pocket for a little bit. The moral of the story is telomerase prevents telomere shortening, which is very bad. And there's no greater depiction of this than progeria. Progeria is it's a terminal disease. These kids die with it. die from it. There is no cure right now. These beautiful children die from all the same age-related illnesses as the older population. They have strokes, congestive heart failure. They suffer with deformative arthritis. Their lifespan is very, very quick. You're talking 12, 13 years with some outliers, max of 18 years, 18 to 20 years. But these kids are all terminal. And so this is a short telomere disease. So if someone really doesn't understand what this does, they're all aged. All these kids have rapidly aged. And this is what's happening with each and every one of us now, but it's at a much slower pace. And back in 2010, Journal of American Medical Association, they knew this. They said that short telomeres increase the risk of cancer 4 to 5 times. Why is that? Because cancer cells, right? We have an amazing defense system called our immune system. There's certain cells that destroy cancer cells. But if those cells don't have the fuel, okay, and that fuel helps keep those telomeres long, those immune cells go inactive and they can't do their job. So thus, the increased rate of cancer. And I would say probably 25, maybe 30 years ago, there were very few papers written on telomeres. Now there are tens of thousands of publications, PubMed, peer-reviewed medical journals, peer-reviewed journals all over that show the link between all of these things and many more, between cardiovascular disease and short telomeres, cancer, short telomeres, certain neurodegenerative diseases, all of these things down here, pulmonary function and muscular dystrophy, et cetera. All of these things. In fact, Bill Andrews doesn't know one disease that's out there that's not linked to our telomere shortening, telomeres that are shortening. So we don't want short telomeres, and we want to do everything we can to prevent our telomeres from shortening before they need to, if that makes sense. And this is what we call healthy aging, or if you take it a step further, it's called being healthy versus not being healthy. Science is here. This is new world science right now that's completely changed the face of how we practice and what we're able to do and the behavior that we have. So these categories up here are all published. In many, many places, they're published. And what they show is that they show the relationship between short telomeres and these categories up here. So people that take antioxidants, omega-3s, fatty acids, vitamin D3, all the population in the older population that does these things, takes these things, they have longer telomeres than the control group in the older population that didn't. The patients that smoke in the older population versus the patients that didn't, or the subjects that didn't, have rapidly declined or much shorter telomeres. And they're significantly, statistically significant when you see the data. Stress, huge changes in patients with telomere shortening. They studied the caregivers of Alzheimer's patients, not the Alzheimer's patients themselves, but the caregivers, because we know what kind of stress that evokes on people. And they all had rapidly declined telomere lengths in the population that took care of the elderly, the patients that were ill. Pessimism also, people who are negative all the time, they have rapidly declined and they have rapidly accelerated telomere lengths. And so these things are all behavioral. These things are all things that we can look at and say, how can we do things a little better? How can we take this control and adjust our lifestyle so we age healthy? So this is the question I'd like to pose. Do you think it's possible in the world today that you can actually reverse the aging process? Is that possible? Well, if you asked me this 20, 25 years ago, I'd say we have a big impact on it. But I would say to you, there's no known resource that we have that says we can reverse it. Things have changed. And I'm going to show you that right now. I show a picture of these guys to when I present and I go to anti-aging conferences, these guys tell a story in and of itself. And I show you a picture of these lobsters because according to researchers, lobsters show no sign, I'm sorry about the barking in the background. Lobsters show no signs of detectable aging. You take that a step further, and researchers also found out that lobsters have their telomerase gene turned on throughout life. So they're expressing, hang on one second, I'm sorry. Hey, Lise. Thank you. Sorry, guys, I don't know how loud that is. So lobsters express telomerase throughout life. And also what they found out was lobsters don't get cancer. When they found out that lobsters don't get cancer and they express telomerase, they knew there was a link. They knew there was a link here and they went to work. The pharmaceutical companies went to work when they saw this. The nutraceuticals companies went to work by trying to formulate a nutritional component to add to this. The health and wellness industry, what can we do to help induce telomerase and have us age healthier? And so this got so much traction. Diane Sawyer did an expose on this a few years ago on ABC. They showed this study that was done, this genius study that was done by this gentleman, Dr. Ronald Del Pino, who was on staff at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, used to be on staff at Harvard Medical School, and now runs one of the largest cancer teaching hospitals in the world at MD Anderson in Texas. And they engineered, the study was this: they took these old mice and they were able to turn that telomerase gene back on. Remember before I told you at birth that telomerase gene is shut off. We all still have the gene, we're just not expressing it anymore. They were able to turn on the telomerase gene in these old aged mice to see what would happen. And for the first time published with any credible science behind it, there was a remarkable reversal of the aging process, says Dr. Ronald Del Pino. So when someone like Dr. Del Pino makes this statement, people listen. Part of this study was done, part of the blood that was studied was at a Harvard Medical School. This is a big study and a pinnacle point in our healthcare today. And this just is absolutely amazing. For the first time, they saw that these old age mice, their cells regenerated. The morphology was back to as it was when they were youthful mouse. They were studying these mice, these old mice. They had dementia-like symptoms. They couldn't get out of their mazes. They were now getting out of the maze. They were eating better. Their fertility came back. Their sense of smell came back. This was huge. So for the first time, they proved this. There was another woman over in Madrid, Spain. Her name is Dr. Maria Blasco. And they did a similar study at another cancer hospital over there. She teaches at a cancer hospital. The study was done, and they got better results from the same thing. So telomerase and telomeres, huge. So everybody's looking for, the magic pill here. What can we do? And the information that's going to save us all and have us age healthy throughout life. Before I go on, I want to make very clear that the FDA doesn't recommend, they don't promote any supplements out there. So when people still say, oh, does the FDA recommend this supplementation or approve it? No, they don't approve any supplementation. The FDA gets involved when people make claims that are unsubstantiated, which we don't do. We're very careful with that and make proper claims and accounts, or if someone gets injured. Other than that, this nutrition here and what we're going to talk about is not meant to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent any illness or disease. And that's very important. No nutrition heals you. I want to be very clear about that. Nutrition doesn't heal you. Nutrition is the fuel that turns on the amazing, beautiful entities and orchestrations inside your body that heal you, if that makes sense. And that's really important because people still don't really understand that. And that's hugely important. So Dr. Bill Andrews, he's got the only lab in the world in Reno, Nevada, that has this certain technology that's able to study the aging process in a way no other lab can do that. So his job, his sole focus and dedication is to, he'll tell you, cure the aging process. He's introduced by this gentleman over here, John Anderson, through a gentleman named Peter Greenlaw, who we have to remember to call out to. Without that meeting, I don't know where we would be. So John Anderson was introduced to Bill Andrews. John Anderson is known throughout the world of nutraceuticals. If you talk to anybody who's in a nutraceutical company, they know this gentleman. He has the utmost respect of the world. He is the master formulator. He's the brains behind so many of the supplements that you still see on the shelves today, because he's been formulating for 30 years with a genius approach and a genius way to create health through what nature gave us, but we're unable to get through our food anymore. And he did this for 30 years, for 3 decades, and eventually went into retirement. And the reason is he would come to the table with these amazing formulations, uncompromised formulations, but unfortunately he worked for these big companies that would come to him to formulate, and they would compromise his products over and over and over again because they said to him, John, that's great, but if we use this ingredient, right? We can save a little bit of money and make a little more money over here. And that's called compromise. And that's what he had enough of. He couldn't stand it. And so in 2002, he started a company, Isogenics, with a no compromise policy. So he will not waver with the quality. And this is one of the reasons when I finally looked at this company, and many of you made the same decision because of the research and because of the transparency that this company has with their no compromise policies. So anyways, back on track here. These guys met, and John Anderson said, listen, Bill, you're the master in your lab at what you do. You've been researching this for years and years and years and trying to come up with a way to stop the aging process or slow down the aging process. I'm going to do what you do naturally. Now, Bill is in the lab, okay? And look at this time frame. Between 94 and 2009, he's been analyzing and blending compounds, over 300,000 to be exact, compounds, to be able to get these hits. So when you see these red lines down here, these are hits. And by the way, these studies were done in skin cells, human skin cells, in a dish, in vitro. And so they're studying skin cells in a dish. They're trying to induce telomerase to lengthen telomeres, right? Over 10 years, $30 million later, they have 8 hits. So they were able to do it. So we got to give some credit. We got to give a lot of credit to them for doing that in the lab. I mean, this is, like I said before, genius is an understatement for these two gentlemen. But he was able to do it. And they had 8 hits using these highly toxic compounds that we can't ingest, but that wasn't the point. John Anderson said, Bill, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this naturally. And although, he is, the king of all kings in this world by, all the supplement companies and nutraceutical companies, it still wasn't believed he was going to be able to do it. And certainly Bill didn't think he was going to be able to do it. And in the first 15, now mind you, they studied 300,000 compounds. John blended 15, the first 15 that he sent over to Bill to test, because John's formulating, Bill's going to test, okay? He sends over his first 15 samples, he gets a hit. Bill's thinking, this is crazy. They checked their work multiple times. So this is absolutely a coincidence. This could never have happened unless the stars were aligned. That's fine. Let's just keep moving forward. Another 15 samples, he gets another hit and another hit. And eventually, after 120 formulations and attempts, they had 7 hits. And now they're looking at him and saying, wait a second, there's he's got it. He's doing something right. And then they get 2 more hits that were off the chart. And recently, we're coming out with 4th generation now of what this has done in a nutraceutical, in a nutritional supplement that you and I can take that helps support our telomeres. I'm not going to tell you it lengthens, it induces telomerase. What I'm going to tell you right now is it supports our telomeres. And from my experience, and as Jojo said, I get to lecture on this all across the country and overseas and whatnot. And I go to these conferences, I go to medical conferences and anti-aging, preventive medicine conferences. And I will tell you, there's a lot of supplements out there in a lot of different fields. And we have some of the best, there's no question. When you come to this type of nutrition, I don't think anybody else is in second place. I don't believe and I look at them and I see them and we ask for the science. We want to look at the science. We want to look at the studies. This is off the charts. Everybody has to look at this. To me, when people say, well, what's your most important thing that you do? It's hard to say that because there's a lot of important things that we do, but I wouldn't go a day without putting this in my body. And I want to show you some people here who have drastically changed their health, their physiology, their well-being based on this supplementation. Dick Sauter, who many of you know in this picture here, he was 82 years old. Look at him now, 82. And I believe this last picture, he's 89 years old. And he wanted to do push-ups, 80 push-ups or 89 push-ups on his 89th birthday. And I think he did over 90 or over 100 push-ups. I mean, look at him. Look at his skin. Look at his complexion. This first picture, 82 years old, Dick thought that he was doing all he could, like most of us. You and I think, oh, this is all we can do. And no, it's because we don't know what we don't know. Kathy, who I know is on here, who's always on here, our own Kathy Tank, she was 69 here on stage, and now she's 72. Look at her. Beautiful. She just started doing something different, right? There's always that day where you don't know certain information, and then you leap into the next day and someone gave you something that makes sense and you look into it and then you try it. And that's all we're saying. We're not here trying to tell people what to do. We're saying, look, these are real people. And by the way, these aren't the exceptions now. This is the rule over and over. We're in 14 countries. Jill Bowman, she was already on supplementation 5 or 6 years before she found this. It was called Product B when it came out in August, I believe, of 2011. We started using it in October of 2011. So Jill was already on high level, the best supplementation you can find, and then she added this into her program. She owns multiple CrossFit gyms. She works out. She's in the world of fitness and knows her stuff. The Colonel, any of you know boxing Hall of Fame, Bob Sheridan. He was basically sent home from the hospital at this point with his surgeons and doctors didn't want to operate because of how bad his health had deteriorated. He wasn't going to come out in a good place. Sent him home. He was thankfully introduced to this information, changed some things, and look at him now. He wants to keep announcing. He's in his 80s and wants to keep announcing right now. So, this is the body was meant for certain fuel. That's really what it is. Chantel, here's a young mom in her 30s, was debilitated with back problems and severe back discomfort and issues that were hindering the quality of her life, to say the least. She wasn't able to be with her kids and play with her kids. Now she's enjoying life again and doing the things that she couldn't do before. Many of you are nodding your heads because many of you, if you're a guest on here or if you end up watching this recording, I always tell people they should not be complacent. I always tell people, listen, everybody's always learning. If we don't know the answer here, let's go find the answer. But to suffer at age 30, at 40, at 70, because we don't know certain things is no excuse now to find out what that information is. So really that's what it is. One of the things that got me super excited about isogenesis now, isogenesis was studied in a double-blind placebo-controlled study. So they used isogenesis in a study at Arizona State Sciences. It's an in vivo study, which means in live subjects now, not just in a dish, which most nutritionists study. It's studied in live subjects. And what they were studying was the effects of telomerase on an enzyme called catalase. So just to give you some history, catalase is produced by all of our cells. So when you cut your finger, in order for that tissue to heal, your body has to have enough catalase to create that healing component. So catalase, number one, is the glue, if you will, that allows our tissue to heal. And number two, catalase also acts as a force field. So if you think of Star Trek or Star Wars, these spaceships have force fields. And when the spaceship has the force field up, nothing can come and get to the spaceship. So any bullets or anything that's being shot or missiles at the spaceship or anything else that's trying to attack and damage the spaceship, if the force field is up, it gets repelled. That's the purpose of a force field. And that's the purpose of catalase. Unfortunately, as we grow older and as our cells multiply beyond a certain number of times, we produce less and less catalase, less and less defense, number one, and less ability to heal, right? This is the aging process. This is why telomeres are so important with this, right? And then we find out that patients and people that have cancer, diabetes, heart disease, atherosclerosis, you name it, fatty liver disease, they have much lower levels of catalase. So are they going to be able to heal as quickly as you and I or someone who's healthy? No. Are they going to be more susceptible to more damage and more injuries? Absolutely, because they don't have the force field anymore. And so this is what happens. The force field is down or it becomes porous, boom, damage to the cell. Another rocket or missile comes in, boom, damage to the cell, damage to the cell. And now this is the cell you have. So if this is your liver cell, is this a good thing? If this is your kidney cell, if this is a good thing, if this is no. And this is cellular breakdown. This is what I'm here to tell you is more controllable than you think. Not perfectly, but I'll say almost. Because I believe that the world around us gives us everything we need to express our health. And so what they found was during this study, in vivo study, there was a 15% increase in catalase activity. And for any of you that look at science and look at studies, a 15% increase or decrease is a huge, huge number. That is huge. So this is paramount, and this supplementation is mandatory now in my clinic. So in my clinic, as Jojo said, we treat spinal degeneration, um, hernia disc, bulging disc, degenerative disc disease. We treat nerve injuries, nerve pathologies, peripheral neuropathies. I'm not sitting here, and I'll be very clear, this does not cure what I just said, what we treat. This is a component of the nutrition to give the body the fuel so the body can go and be its best, be the best it can be. That is exactly what good nutrition does. So I want to be very clear about that. But that, along with some other things, are mandatory, because what we found was, even though I've been using nutrition for the length of time I've been practicing, we saw some dramatic differences in patients. And we have the fortunate experience to look at physiology. And when you see such drastic changes in physiology, it's not just Mrs. Jones is walking in and, hey, Dr. Dunsky, I feel great today, but they're, and I'm sleeping better and I have more energy. On a physiological level, we're seeing drastic changes with this program we're putting them through. So I think exercise is very important. You have to have enough sleep. It's crucial. You have to be well. There's certain things where you need some intervention, like some of the therapies that we do, for sure. But if you don't have nutrition, in my opinion, you have nothing. None of that's going to work, because the body has to heal itself. And not only are we in a health crisis today, we all know that because of what's going on right now, but let's back up to November. Let's back up to October. Let's back up to September of 2019. We were still in a crisis. And that is the world that we lived in. Okay. So we kind of have to separate this, but we don't want to separate this right now. Actually, it's very poignant. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But even before this thing that's out there right now, we have some of the greatest minds in science. I believe we have the best doctors and nurses and practitioners and scientists and chiropractors and occupational therapists, and whatever your realm is as a practitioner. We have the best science out there. Why are we one of the sickest countries in the world? Why are we one of the most obese countries in the world when we have 5 million diets to choose from? How does that make sense? Everybody's on a diet. Why are we one of the most obese countries? So there's something else going on here. And what I talk about a lot is called the TDOS syndrome: toxicity, deficiency, obesity, and stress. That's what I believe. So that's my opinion here based on science. My opinion based on science is that we're so sick because we're so toxic, we're so deficient, we are overweight and obese, and we're stressed out. And so today, another fantastic statistic that we have is 1 in 2 of our children, so 50% of our kids, have a chronic illness. Many of you have children in your household that have a chronic illness. If you don't, I guarantee you know someone, or a cousin or a neighbor or someone that you know. 1 in 2 is unacceptable. In 2008, it was 1 in 4. That wasn't acceptable, but it's 1 in 2 today. And that hit us directly, because Lisa and I, we have 5 kids total. And our 4th and 5th kids, Jax and Josie, were born 3 months early. Completely unexpected. Josie, who you see over here on the right-hand side of the screen, became very sick about a month in. So a month after she was born, she got very sick, and it was not looking good. And 4.5 months in the NICU, and there were several days where we didn't think she was going to make it to the next day. It was as bad as you can think of, without getting into the story here, because that's not what this is about. But we got to live this personally. So when we talk about sick children, that has a definitive effect on how we conduct ourselves through life and how we have a mission to help people with this. And thankfully, she wrote it out and came through. Some of you have kids that came through and some of you didn't. And our hearts go out to you and all the other sick kids out there. But this is the world that they're being born into. There've been over 100,000 new industrial chemicals put into the air, the water, and the food that we eat every single day since World War II. Every single day we're consuming these chemicals. And I'm not suggesting you can outrun this at all. I am suggesting there's certain things you can do to mitigate that, and that we know you can do. Mount Sinai School of Medicine has called attention to this by saying the average person has over 167 deadly toxins inside them. This isn't my opinion. This is Mount Sinai. And I want to ask you another question. 167 deadly toxins. What about 1? Is 1 deadly toxin okay? Right? It sounds silly, but no, of course not. And that's the world that we live in. I've seen studies that have shown 800 of these deadly toxins that live inside of us. CNN showed a study that the American Red Cross did, and they took these baby girls and baby boys that were born right at birth, and they tested their cord blood. They tested their umbilical tissue right from birth to see what toxicity they brought into this world, or they came into this world with. And each and every single one of them had over 287 industrial chemicals inside their beautiful bodies. Might this have something to do with all of those chronic illnesses? I believe so. I absolutely believe so. How could it not? How could it not? The water that we drink, contaminated up and down in every way you look at it. Our food, we already talked about that, chemically contaminated and genetically now with the GMO processing. That's a whole other lecture and discussion right there. But that's what we're consuming. As bad as it is, the FDA scientists eventually came out and said, no one should be consuming this, yet you and I are consuming it every single day. And these kids, these young kids, it breaks my heart. This kid probably is already type 2, is probably already hypertensive, probably already has a fatty liver. I don't know how old he is, but he's he's still pretty young. 23 million obese children. And I equate it to this. I absolutely believe and agree with the experts that have looked at this over and over and over again. Linus Pauling, right? We all know him, 2 Nobel Prizes, 48 PhDs, believe that every sickness and disease can be traced back to a mineral deficiency. There's a reason why they call the minerals, trace minerals, the spark plugs of life. Enzymes are the spark plugs of life. There's a reason why they say that these minerals fuel the enzymes, which are the spark plugs of life, that create every chemical reaction in our body. If our body's process is not working right, of course we're going to get sick. Of course we're going to get sick. Ex-Surgeon General of the United States under Ronald Reagan, C. Everett Koop, he felt that over 70% of all the diseases that he knew of were related to nutritional deficiencies, mineral deficiencies. And if he was alive today, and he looked at the studies today and the publications today, I believe he would say a lot more than that. Absolutely. Those trace minerals, we need 50 to 72 every single day. Every single day. So if it's not in the dirt, it's not in the soil, and it's certainly not getting to the vegetables, which is that's the catalyst, how are we getting it? We're not. And guess what runs your immune system? These trace minerals comes down to. Guess what runs your neurological system? Every nerve impulse is created by enzymes that makes something called axoplasmic flow. It's the electrical signal in the nerve. Enzymes that are fueled by trace minerals, all of them. So our food is bankrupt today. There have been several studies that show this over and over again. Back in 1953, we had 1 bowl of spinach was proven to give us a week supply of iron, done by UCLA. The study ended in 97, and it showed that we needed 43 bowls of spinach to give us 1 week supply of iron. Now it said we need 54 bowls of spinach to get 1 week supply of iron. I don't know about you. I like spinach, but I don't eat 54 bowls of spinach, right? Apples, 68 apples. We need 8 oranges to equal an orange back from 1936. Should we be eating them? Sure, but who can eat 8 oranges? We can't. I wish we didn't, honestly, as much as I love this, I wish we didn't have to be doing this today. I wish we wouldn't have to supplement today. I wish we could go outside and get everything that we need. But unless you live in some remote section of this planet, most of us can't do that and aren't getting the nutrition that we need. And then you throw the herbicides and pesticides in the air, which destroy the beautiful fungus that actually eats away at the rock, that actually makes the trace minerals. We can't get this anywhere. I want to show you a picture of this guy here. So I mentioned to you the neurological system, the immune system, and by the way, hormones and your endocrine system, they're all fueled by the food that we get from the dirt, basically. These guys are analogous to what we call macrophages. So there are certain cells, monocytes, or cells in the immune system that are called macrophages. These macrophages eat bacteria, they eat viruses, they eat things that want to come in and harm us. They also eat cancer cells. So these guys, they look just like Pac-Man. They run around your system, and they're looking for cells that are morphing and changing into cancer cells. And what they do is they see a cell that's mutating or changing. They send out a signal, and they tell that cell, you better change back to your job, whatever your job is, and I'll leave you alone. And if you don't change back to what you're supposed to be doing in the morphology and the consistency, I'm going to come eat you. And that's what they do. They turn towards that mutating cell and they go gobble it up. Okay, that's one of the ways our immune system destroys cancer cells every day. Everybody, I want everybody to know that your body's making cancer cells every day. Children are born with thousands of cancer cells, but if their immune system is working properly, right, and it's as long as they're exposed to the right things and their immune system is building, those cancer cells will be gobbled up and eaten up by these macrophages. There's other ways, by the way, other cells die, like apoptosis and whatnot. I'm just talking about the macrophages here because some of you asked that question last time. So these macrophages eat those cancer cells. So the fuel that these macrophages need are enzymes. So enzymes run, it's the gasoline, if you will, for our car, the same thing. Our cars run on a specific type of gasoline. These macrophages run on these enzymes. Your body makes enzymes from what? Trace minerals. If you don't get the trace minerals, right? I can't get the gas to get in my car. How's my car going to move? I don't care how beautiful the car is, right? That's why we see, and we see this a lot. And those of you that work with athletes, you'll confirm this. We see athletes, we see their bodies looking one way for a short period of time, but they're really, some of them are really, really sick and getting worse on the inside. We have some phenomenal athletes that we work with that use this program because what they were doing before was making them sicker and sicker and sicker, right? So you can't judge a book by its cover. And I say that to you because they're focused on looking, buff and generating muscle, but is it necessarily good for you, some of the things that they were doing? So we need the trace minerals to make the enzymes to make our immune system strong and fight off these things that we're being hit with today and whatnot. So there's many things. Sleep is a big deal too. You don't get enough sleep, none of these things are going to work properly. This is a crucial component, but not the only component. I'm be very clear about that. So the analogy is here is if we don't give our body the fuel to allow these guys to run, it's like having a car with no gas. It's not going to happen. Having an army that's going to protect us with no bullets and no guns. It's not going to happen. And this is the best that some of our parents and some of us think that we can do. And I'm not pointing fingers because honestly, most people don't know this. Most people think, well, if I can buy it from the store, it must be healthy. Because why would the government why would the FDA ever allow me to buy a nutritional product that's not healthy? My response to you is, can you still buy cigarettes? Of course. Can you still buy alcohol? Of course. Is that stuff great for us? No. And I don't think anybody would tell you that they believe smoking is non-harmful to them. Of course. And it's the same here. You have to do your research. You have to do your research and find out what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, right? So hydrogenated oils, one of the worst things that we put in our bodies today, destroys our immune system. Talk about, I won't get off on cholesterol here, but there's things far worse than eating eggs. I think eggs are very healthy, right? Hydrogenated oils is like taking a pickaxe to your cardiovascular system, yet it's in everything that we consume. It's in the package and whatnot. So you got to be looking out for stuff like that. Anyways, I'll go on. I won't get caught there. They did autopsies on these children that happened to die in accidents, over 700, by the way. And they found that 17%, you can see here are the other statistics on 70% had fatty livers. Children are not supposed to have fatty livers. It is not natural. Why do they have fatty livers at age 15, 14, 13, 18 years old? Why? Because of the world that we live in and what they're putting in their bodies and the lack of exercise and the other things that are not good for us. So those are the statistics out there, as upsetting as it is. And you may be one of those people that say, hey, listen, Josh, I eat very well. I eat organic food. Because I get this in my office many times, or if I do a consult with someone, I eat organic food, I do yoga, I meditate, I talk nice to my wife, whatever it is, I do all the right things. Well, why are we having this conversation then? Because they'll tell you also their health is declining, right? Why is that? Because they're not getting the fundamental nutrients. And those of you that think you're healthy now, that's great. And I'm not saying you're not healthy, but most people are not. And we can show this. So this chart right here shows the alkalinity chart. The alkalinity acidity chart goes like this. our bodies were meant to be around 7.24. And depending on the publication you look at, some say 7.3, 7.24, 7.2, whatever. 7.24 means our body is at homeostasis. What does that mean? It's expressing health. It's not sick. And when the body is doing the right thing, it's expressing itself. So when bacteria comes in and your little Johnny gets a little cold and a runny nose and a slight temp, that's healthy. His body's fighting off the infection, right? His body's expressing health. Unfortunately, most of the things that we do, I don't know if you can see my cursor. Jojo, can you see my mouse moving around on the screen? Okay, so most of the thank you. So most of the things we do put us in an acidic environment. It lowers our pH. So when I say low pH, that means high acidity. That is not good for our health. We want to be more alkaline than acidic. It's okay to have meat. So you'll see this bone-in fillet down here, this whatever the sirloin is, I don't know what it is. I'm not saying you don't eat meat. I like meat. Do I eat it every day? No. 80, 90% of what we do up here. So the beautiful foods, the fresh fruits and vegetables and nutrition that we consume is mainly alkaline. And then you can have a little bit of acid producing food. The problem is most of us do this down here. And I wouldn't even call this food over here. You know, you're talking about things in a box that have preservatives. It just destroys your cardiovascular system. It destroys your liver over time. It's a slow death. And I don't take that lightly. It's a slow death over and over again. Some coffees that are out there are are 2.5 acidity. Very, very dangerous. And so when we are so acidic for a long time, our bodies pull calcium out of the bones to bring that acidity up. And so there's a disease called osteoporosis, which means we have bone wasting. Our bones are being destroyed and disintegrating. There's also a pre-disease called osteopenia. And I'll give you just a snapshot at that. When you consume sodas and you're consuming preservatives and high sugar, it's very inflammatory and very acidic. It's very acidic. So the body's, the pH starts to dip and become more acidic. The way that the body rights itself, because we have this beautiful innate mechanism for healing, the body rights itself by pulling more calcium out of the bones. But if you do this every day over and over again, you have a bone leaching problem, and you can fall into that category where you're having a destruction of bone. And it's not just 80-year-old women anymore. It's 30 and 40-year-old men and women that are osteopenic and osteoporotic. That's just one disease that I'm relating to lifestyle. And so again, nutrition can help our bodies be the best that it can, so it can fight whatever is going on out there, if that makes sense. And thank goodness we have these amazing shakes. They're alkalining shakes. They're anti-inflammatory shakes. They're low glycemic shakes. So our type 1 and type 2 patients in the clinic do very well with them. And again, if you have any ailments, conditions, diseases, talk to your doctor. If there's any questions about what you should be doing, I'm not giving anybody any medical advice. This is food. This is simply food. But if you still have questions, check with your medical doctor about this. So we get the greatest, I feel, for our kids. You know, I can't control what they get at school. I can control what they have. And it makes me, nothing makes me happier when they get a smoothie bowl for breakfast. And we sprinkle it with, we make it fun. We put almond chips on top, and we'll cut up some bananas if they want some bananas on it. If they want some raisins one day, once in a while, if we're doing it as a desserts, we'll throw some chocolate chips on it. But they can have it like that, or we can make it into ice cream. The point is, I can get them the best nutrition here. They need those trace minerals. They need the probiotics, the prebiotics. A lot of people don't know about prebiotics too. They get the highest quality whey protein, undenatured whey protein, which is very different. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are experts. You know, everybody's an expert. I'm not an expert, but I just like to read a lot, and I do a lot of research and digging. So I suggest you do the same, and don't take this as my word for it. Do your own research. But I feel very confident in this company that I would put it in my kids' mouths. And you see the changes in them too. You see the changes in me and our energy. I'm going to be 50 next year, and I feel like I'm 22 years old. I feel like I have more energy than I did at 22 years old, no joke. And so I can go on and on about the components, but I really just want to give you the concepts. And if you want something every day, look at our muscle wasting starts, as far as we know, at age 28. It's called sarcopenia. Muscle is not just to look good on the beach. Muscle is to help produce a main component of our immune system. and our major toxin on our major antioxidant called glutathione. It is one of the most important things that God gave us in our body to keep us healthy when something attacks us. It's the basis of our immune system. When you generate lean muscle, guess what you're doing? You're putting a don't take my word for it, a nitrous boost, using the car analogy now, into our body, giving a boost into our body of our immune system. It absolutely is. So this is why when someone breaks a hip, the mortality rate goes up. The likelihood that they're going to die from a broken hip goes way up. Why? Because if they can't simply walk and build muscle, their immune system now succumbs. That's scary. That's very scary. So this shake has the highest yield of protein synthesis I found on the market today. No question about it. No question about it. And there's reasons for it. And we don't need to get technical, but if you want to know more, ask the person who invited you and they'll show you what this type of protein does, why undenatured whey protein is like nothing else out there. It has a high affinity to building muscle. And that's a concept to take away. So you know that phrase, you are what you eat? Well, I'm going to take it one step further. You are what you absorb. An unhealthy gut is not going to absorb things right away. It takes time to change. Thankfully, we have a tool, one of the tools to help change that environment and allow us to start absorbing what we eat. Very, very important. So can one meal change your life, change how you live and your health? Yes, I believe so unequivocally. And so let's do a comparison, because people want to know, why should they stop doing what they're doing? Well, here's one reason why. If you want to keep doing what you're doing, I'm not going to say don't continue on that path. It's a choice. Are you getting any nutrition in that meal over here on the left? Zero, except for the sesame seeds, some will tell you. There's negative nutrition, because when you put dangerous calories, and what I mean by dangerous, empty calories. So think of a calorie as a big circle. If there's no engine in there, let's say, or there's no nutritional benefit in that calorie, it's seen by the body as a bad thing. And what that empty calorie does, it actually triggers a hormone called obesogens to make more fat cells. So number one, there's no nutrition. Number two, it actually puts you into more of a nutritionally deprived state versus maximum nutrition. You're talking 1,800 empty, dangerous calories versus 240 nutritionally dense calories. Big difference. So when your body sees that shake, when people say, well, most people, by the way, they're filled up with the shake, but once in a while, someone will say, hey, Josh, I was still hungry after a shake. You know what I said? Hey, dude, make another one, right? Because it's nutritionally dense calories, right? That's being used by the body. And from a cost standpoint, people still think they can't be healthy. They're more so today. Look at this. We're all at home. Very few people are working. We get it. Even when people are working, we have to look at the dollar. We have to look at budgeting. We have to look at what makes sense for my family. But this is what they're doing, thinking they're saving money. Now, that was 2007. Now in 2020, it's about $10.40. So let's say it was still $9 back then. Under $3 for a meal that we can give our kids and us, under $3. And then when you add in isogenesis, you're talking, in place of a latte, or just over $5 for isogenesis and a shake a day. You want to do more than one shake a day? Great, have at it. I do a couple of shakes a day. I still eat, but I don't eat for my nutrition anymore. I get this for my nutrition, and I eat for pleasure. But you're talking I still hear people say, I can't afford it. And I know they don't just go to a Starbucks. Some of my friends, who I won't call out on here, go to Starbucks multiple times a day, and they say this stuff is expensive. And I say to them, I get to buy this stuff. It's a privilege. You drive, one friend in particular, you drive a $70,000 car. That's expensive to some people. A $10,000 car is expensive to some people, but you perceive value in it. If you perceive value in the McDonald's, keep going. In the burger, keep going. This is about an option that you have, but you're spending far more than this. So I urge all of you, if this interests you at all, or you know of anybody that's struggling, anybody who needs to lose weight, they don't get sleep, they're complaining all the time, they feel lousy, send them to foreverpack.com. There's a 22-minute video that does a far better job than I could do on here to explain to you what this is. You don't have to know the science behind it. It's all here. We have a phenomenal scientific website called isogenicshealth.net. You have an ingredient question, isogenicshealth.net. You have a study question, a research question, isogenicshealth.net. You want to talk to some of the scientists talk about being transparent, which I didn't find with some other companies. Anyways, you want to talk to some of these scientists that can tell you the deep down hardcore, go way beyond what I could possibly do. You can contact them through isogenicshealth.net. All the tools are right here. But this is a system, the Forever Pack or the Mini Pack program. It's simple. It's easy to share. It speaks for itself. They have I'm just going to minimize this for a second. They have a return policy whereas if you don't like how it tastes, if you don't like the way it looks, if you just you want to put it in your body for 30 days and you just don't want to do it anymore, they send you all your money for your products back in 30 days. So when people say, oh, I'd love to try it, can you send me a trial? Yep, I can send you a trial. Here it is. It's $164. The best trial you can find, guaranteed. So there's no risk behind it. Today, as well as every other day, but happens to be that today we need to be focusing on our immune system even more and fueling our body with other important things. If you wanted my opinion here, I gave you a lot of facts, but I'm going to give you my opinion again. My opinion is that everybody needs to be putting the right fuel in our body every single day, more now than ever. That's why I will not go a day without having a shake or my isogenesis. I also take everything else on this screen up here because this stuff is so important. The immune boost that we have, the C light, the vitamin C, you want to look at the vitamin A, vitamin D3, zinc, all of those things. If you want more information, I'm not going to go into this stuff up here. Talk to the person that invited you on here. They can give you the information on it. It's crucial. And I'm so privileged to be able to have this stuff for my kids too and my family, as well as myself. Now, I want to leave you with one other thing here, because money for a lot of people right now is an issue. And they say, I'd love to do it, Josh, but I just don't have the money. Awesome. This company has stepped up and beyond in so many different ways to be able to help us get the best nutrition and help share the best nutrition. So they do what Verizon does and what almost every other big company now does too in the world of service. You tell people about our Verizon plan, we're going to give you minutes and give your friends minutes too. So they say, Josh, if you know anybody that could use this nutrition and you put them on the program, we're going to benefit you. We're either going to give you coupons for your own food or we're going to give you money. Which would you want? That's as simple as it is. So if I have two people that I know of, not 200, not 20, not 2,000, but only two people that get started, I share with this just like someone shared with me and say, look, this might help you. If you want to try it, here you go. If they start on the same program, you're talking $164. By the way, that's for the entire month. That's just, it's like you're going to Costco or BJ's. You're buying your food at the beginning of the month. If they both start on the same program, Isogenics is going to give you $120 back right away. Wait a second. So I paid $164 and I get $120 back? Yes. They're going to give you that $120 if you can share this with these two people within 30 days. So many people do this in the first day, first hour. If it takes you 2 days or 3 days, it doesn't matter. You could do it on day 29. You're still going to get $120 back right away. So when money is an issue, which it certainly is for everybody, how great is it to offset your diet? And you can take it a step further, right? If you can say to these people too, listen, money is an issue for you guys just like it is for me. Do you know two people, not 22, and you help them get started the same way? If you do this within 60 days by helping those two people, Isogenics is going to give you another $450. So you just brought in $570 by helping those two people do what someone helped you to do. And guess what? You can just be a customer. You don't have to open your mouth. The commonality here is most people do because they feel so much different and they want to share this with people, but you don't have to. It's just a way. So you take the money barrier out of the conversation. And again, I mean, look at this, $570 back by helping someone get started. And there's no risk on your part. Your name is still good with them because if they don't like it, they get their money back for the products. But that's been phenomenal in such a way. So you're taking the monetary conversation or the roadblock out of the conversation, I should say. There's a phenomenal order pack in the back office. Going to foreverpack.com. The video is there. The order sheet's there. I highly recommend that you get back with the person that invited you on here tonight. I love talking about this. Ask the questions, do the research, or find someone that you trust and ask them the questions. But make sure it makes sense to you. And what can I say? It's been a part of our lives for almost 9 years now, 8 years now, and a mandatory component in our healthcare clinic. So thank you all for being here. I hope this added some value. And Jojo, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Always such good information. Thank you so much for taking the time to explain something that could be really difficult in such a simple way. We so appreciate you. And I mean, there's no question. Hopefully, I mean, that was a really simple explanation. Hopefully you guys understand right now why you want to get this in your body, especially like now with the things that are going on. And, you know, there's two huge conversations that we're having, which is, you know, as we're starting to open up the country and people are starting to go out there again, this thing is not gone. And so for us to build our immune system now, to prepare now to be able to be out there is so key. So, you know, remember that this is the important time to be building up our little armies for when we get back out there. And you know, still until we're able to do that, then you know, this gives somebody a really sustainable secondary resource for food that drops right on their door, and it's nutrient dense and it's not going to spoil in a few days. Like, you know, vegetables, you don't eat them right away, they go away, but that doesn't happen with us. So you have something that's nutrient dense in your pantry, very easy to do, mixed with water, and you have the ability to have that on top of, you know, building your immune system through telomere support. It's, you know, very clear. Thank you so much, Dr. Josh. We appreciate you so much.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Jojo. I appreciate you. And I just realized how dark my office was that whole time. I'm so sorry. I just saw it when my picture came back up. No, Jojo, I appreciate you so much and everybody on here. And we're all in this fight together. And it's a one team thing here. So let's do it and get the job done.
Yep. It's a big mission, you guys. So thank you for being on. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And we will be back tomorrow night at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. Dave MacArthur will be presenting for us tomorrow evening, and we'll have, you know, same information, a little bit of a different way and a little bit of a different voice. And it's always good to hear it from multiple avenues. And so we're so lucky that we get Dr. Dunsky every now and then to pop in and drop his knowledge on us, because it's always so good to hear that and be able to understand. So tomorrow night, invite some people in to learn. And I know that as you've been sitting here listening to Dr. Dunsky, you've thought about people who deserve to hear this. And so tomorrow night they have another opportunity, and you have the foreverpack.com website that you can always utilize. But it's fun to have them on live and see everybody that's here and be involved in the chat. And you know, that it's always fun to be on live. So I'll invite you back tomorrow night at 5:30 Pacific. And thank you, Doc. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Love you. Take care. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Jojo.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.